Welcome back, everybody. This is the first part of our Bad Batch series review. So, similar to our Ahsoka reaction videos, we're excited to talk about Bad Batch season 3, the final season, with you guys, and we'll go episode by episode and just kind of explore some stuff. So, also, we haven't talked to each other. We're trying out something new here. We haven't talked to each other before recording this, so it'll be first reaction from all of us. So we can just dive right into episode 1. And right off the bat, we started off like right after season 2 left off. And in a lot of the trailers and promotionals, like I had seen that it was like Omega looked older and all these things, right? And so she kind of was keeping track of like the days on the wall, right? She had scratched in the numbers, and I was like,
Bruh.
okay, cool. Like couple days have gone by, right? At first I was like counting them, right? And at first there was like 21 days had gone by, and I was like, okay, like that's not like too long. But then I don't know if you guys noticed like the smooth transition to it's like
Yeah.
there's like this small line of numbers, and then it was like boom, like she's been there for like almost like 6 months at the time, which was crazy, right?
Yeah.
Because
Bro, I was
I mean,
shook.
yeah, right. You see Hunter in the end of season 2, and he's like, no matter what, like our mission is to get Omega back, and like we're not gonna rest until we do that. And like, boom, 6 months has gone by. Like that was pretty crazy time jump for me.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
like he says we're gonna stop at nothing to go get her, and Wrecker, like it seems like, has become the voice of reason. And
yeah,
he's like, "Remember last time you went in without backup?" And like that is like a huge maturity change, between
yeah,
what he has been and then now Tech's gone, and he's like almost I don't know, he's changed. Like they both have changed like crazy.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's cool too because you see it's their numbers were slowly dwindling, right? We had Crosshair leave at the very beginning, and then we had Echo leave, and then Tech passing away, and then now it's just them two, right? Omega gets captured, and now it's just Wrecker and Hunter, two of the people that you didn't think like, oh, if these are gonna be like, I wouldn't put them as duos. And it's cool to see kind of like the difference between the dialogue that you with Hunter, like that Hunter has with the rest of the Bad Batch, that he does with Wrecker. And like you said, it's almost like a maturity level thing where now he's like cracking jokes, and it's almost like Hunter just kind of like, yeah, like whatever. But he's been kind of engaging with some banter with him as well. And so, yeah, I thought that was super interesting to kind of see them together, like all alone, kind of trying to scrape the bottom of the barrel.
yeah, yeah. No, that was definitely crazy. And I think I mean, moving forward with the episode, right? Like post time jump, because like a big thing that kind of surprised me was that I thought that we were going to get more of the Bad Batch, but the whole first episode, we only get Omega and Crosshair. Like we don't see Hunter, we don't see Wrecker, right? Obviously that comes in episode 2 and episode 3 as we go along. But I thought that it was a good, like if you would have asked me 2 seasons ago if that was a good idea, I would have been like, absolutely not. Like, do not give me just an Omega episode. But for some reason, like as far as the storyline went, I thought it was really well set up, and it gave a lot of like background and build up to the story, because we got to see Emery. Emery's the other female clone, right? We got
Yeah.
to see Nala Se, we got to see Crosshair a little bit more, and we got to see Hemlock's facility, which I think gave more weight and kind of more backstory to what they're doing there. Um, and again, they still leave it open for some mystery, and some of those mysteries are a little bit solved as you go into episode 2 and 3. But I felt like it was kind of a necessary episode for Omega, and kind of for the overall setting up of the show at this point. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
one
I'd
thing.
love to get you guys' take on kind of your thoughts regarding only an Omega kind of centered episode. If you liked that, if you didn't like that, and
Yeah, so I just want to jump in kind of real quick. Jason's always been kind of the music guy, kind of like noticed the music
The
in
music was fire.
the
It was
music in this
fire.
first episode was awesome. It was like I don't know, it was like eerie, like not really eerie, but it was like slower, but kind of like like techno-ish. And it's like kind of had this like, but it fit like the laboratory vibes. And I was like, that was the first thing that I noticed. And I was like, I'm not like, I wouldn't really notice that. But I honestly really enjoyed it because I think it fit the Omega vibe, right? It fit like her style of, I guess, with her personality and everything. She's kind of having in this tough spot where she is just trying to figure out how to, navigate kind of this daily routine that she has been for like these, 6 months that you mentioned. But the music that went along with it, I think it added to it. It added very much. And that honestly to me, I'm in the same boat, Jake, where I was like, no, I'm not a fan of just strictly like Omega content. But I honestly had no problem with this episode with that because of the elements that they put into it.
If you've seen seasons 1 and 2 of Bad Batch, this episode alone changed your entire perspective of who Omega is. 100%.
Yeah.
I rewatched season 1 and 2 recently, and I've liked Omega more every single episode that I've watched it on a rewatch. But yeah, I'm with you, Jake. That first watch through, brutal. With I just didn't love Omega. The thought of her having her own arc kind of was like, wait, isn't she the arc? Isn't she already the main character of every single story episode? But oh yeah, this episode was crazy. I mean, you brought it up, the facility. You can see all the clones everywhere. I mean, nothing is getting through this facility, right? That was the vibe. Nothing goes on that Hemlock doesn't know about. There's Delta Squad everywhere. And yeah, the music. If Kevin Kiner pulls those songs out of the album again, bro, that's such a rip. That is such a rip.
Yeah, no, great call out. I agree. The music definitely, I mean, kind of doesn't miss. Hopefully he can bring it to Spotify and Apple Music and do it justice, right? But that music was on point. So I think like one other thing that I thought about as I went through the episode, and obviously, these are plots that kind of come together in episode 2 and episode 3, and we can talk about more in those reviews. But I think it was interesting, again, setting the stage with Omega. I'd love to hear kind of like what you guys' thoughts were like, because when I was first watching episode 1, I started noticing Emery seems like she's closer to Omega, right? Like you can see that there's kind of a little bit more understanding there, maybe a little bit more empathy towards Omega. And as well, you see the very mothering, protective side of Nala Se to Omega. So in my mind, I was kind of thinking, Crosshair's kind of checked out. Crosshair doesn't really want anything to do with Omega. Omega's doing good due diligence and checking in on Crosshair, right? Going down and talking to him and stuff. But as I was thinking about like the show moving forward, and it's like, okay, if Omega's gonna escape or she's gonna break out, like who are her potential allies here? And are we gonna see a character change throughout the season with Emery or maybe Nala Se, where it's like, okay, I value Omega's freedom over my life or my security within the Empire. And so, yeah, I'd love to get you guys' take on that and kind of your first reaction to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because you see kind of like almost that she is kind of like an older, mature Omega who's kind of had to kind of go through, she has been kind of with the Empire the entire time, right? But you kind of see like this is probably who, if Omega would stayed with the Empire, this is who she's going to become. And Omega in these like, in basically in the entire episode, she's deciding like, no, I don't want to be this. I don't want to be this person. I want to go back to my family. I want to go back to my brothers. And so you kind of see if like, okay, maybe you see the path that she could take to become like Emery and be an Imperial like scientist, or she could take the other path and be Omega from the Bad Batch. And so I just thought that was kind of an interesting dichotomy between the two.
Yeah, I this first episode has Rebels season 4 written all over it, and I was so happy that she kept going back to Crosshair because obviously he wanted nothing to do with her, but she just would start just talking to him. She just starts talking to him, and whether he responds in a positive way or not, I thought that was so awesome because she is still, even though she's been there for 6 months or so, she's able to stay positive when Crosshair is like truly broken. And he says to her, he says, "I belong in here," and she says, like, "None of us belong in here," and in reference to the clones, right? Because her
Yeah.
whole job is to be doing blood samples for clones. And so it's cool for her to like ask all these questions to Emery and Nalase, and then kind of reciprocate her thought process to Crosshair, and it's almost like he's like her buddy, even though he doesn't see it that way. And
Hmm.
and so I love that. I love that she's trying for that relationship, because she tried through season one, she tried through season two, and now he doesn't have a choice, right? He's stuck in that
Yeah.
cell, and so he has to deal with it whether he likes it or not. And I feel like only good things can come from it, you know.
Yeah.
Well, one thing
Yeah,
too,
definitely.
at the very end of season one, we see that he had the chance to just let Omega die, right? Let her drown, trying to save AZ, but instead he saved her. So at some point in his in his heart, he has a connection with Omega, and I was against the like Omega connecting with Tech sort of thing because I just didn't like that episode. Um, but this is actually taking it to like a whole other level. Like this is a lot more meaningful than just them kind of having this weird little banter and Tech kind of showing his emotions in a sense when he hasn't the entire show. That was my thing. Is like, okay, the one moment that you decide to show your emotions is the one time you're stuck in a hole in season two. It's like you couldn't have done that the entire time. But this time we kind of see like Crosshair has kind of always been hiding behind his emotions, but now he's having kind of this reality check, knowing that the Empire has totally destroyed him, and he needs to find a way to keep going, or he's not going to survive.
Yeah. And I think kind of just overall looking at this episode as a whole, and again, getting into it in the other episodes, it's kind of sad to see the state of the clones, right? These clones that are in these facilities, like these are the soldiers that have protected the Republic, and this is how you repay them, right? Like they're just stuck in a lab being like tested on, right? And so, I mean, I agree with you guys both. I think it was awesome that Omega, had that moment with Crosshair where she's like, it's not just how like I'm supposed to be treated, how you're supposed to be treated. Like none of the clones should be treated this way. And again, just kind of, he's forced to listen to her, right? And that definitely brings the two of them closer together. I think the final point that was a big reveal, and again, it wasn't necessarily a reveal, but the final point of this episode that I think stood out the most to me was they kind of name drop this blood testing that they're doing, right? And they're trying to find something called the M count. And as a prequel fan, right, and both of you are prequel fans as well. Thinking about M count in the sense of like midichlorians, or what could this M count be, right? When we're thinking maybe they have Nala Se brought in on the cloning and stuff. My brain immediately went, okay, M count, midichlorian count. They're trying to figure out how to clone the Force, or at least the aptitude for the Force. That's like the way that I think about it, right? But I would love to hear you guys' take, or if you guys have other thoughts about that in general.
We'll talk about it more in episode 3, but I love that in the first episode. That's an Omega arc. That is the conversation of, because I mean it's a branch of politics to a degree. Of it's a political thing, and so I think starting off strong with like a super high level political agenda that's super under the radar. I thought that was awesome. So
Yeah, and I mean it connects what I've said multiple times before, which is I love the Force, I love the Jedi, I love that aspect of Star Wars, and that was what got me into Star Wars, right? And the fact that they're now pulling it into kind of Bad Batch in a subtle way, but still like connecting it, right? Because that's all I mean, kind of picking up from context clues. That's what we believe. That's why the Emperor wants the cloning to be done, is so that he can, he says for the future of the Empire, and so he is doing that so he can either inherit another being that's also force sensitive, that he could use the force, have force abilities, or create an army of like dark Sith like clones and stuff. And so I either way, the M count part was actually really, really cool, and I'm glad that they added that in.
Definitely. Well, yeah, I think that's kind of everything that I pulled from the episode. So obviously, I had some cool cameos. We had Scorch uh, from the OG Republic Commandos, which was fun to see him again. But besides that, yeah, I mean, a great first episode. Again, shocked that I liked an Omega standalone episode so much. I mean, it was sad that we didn't see the batch, but I thought it was a great episode 1, and stoked to talk about episode 2 and episode 3 and see the rest of the show.
Okay, well, I said 7.5 out of 10, which it's pretty high. I don't know. I'm trying to. I can't give everything a 10, but like it was really good. So 7.5, 8, somewhere around there. Great episode.
Agreed. I think I would do an 8 for that one because it was a solid start. It was really good. I'm kind of in your same boat where I'm like, I'm excited to see if we're gonna get some 10 episodes. I totally believe we are. So this was a great intro. It's making me excited to see kind of like the future of this because I am actually really enjoying like Omega and Hemlock and this whole part on the planet. So I'm excited to see it. So yeah, 8.
Nice. I think I would actually probably go a little bit lower than you guys. I'd probably go like 6.5 or 7 out of 10. Again, I enjoyed the episode. I thought it was great. It's tough for me to go week by week. And again, I might bring that rating up or down based on how the rest of the series goes. But I thought it was intriguing. Was there a lot of action? No, but I thought it definitely set up the plot a lot when I go back and rewatch it. Definitely. But I don't know if I'm ready to say this was like, top tier content, right? So
Right.
a little more doubting, probably around the 7, maybe lower 6.5 range for me. So all right, well, we'll go ahead and jump into episode 2 then next time.